rabies contractor started surveying for skunks in Cypress County on July the 4th and finished on July the 20th. He didn't have much success with finding skunks in other municipalities in the south, so he was in our county earlier than usual. He normally spends about a week and a half here trapping skunks for rabies sampling for that provincial program. And the report of his findings has not been received yet. So I don't know how many skunks he had or raccoons or whatever in his traps yet this year. So weed control, it's okay, Braden? Okay. We spent a lot of time spraying field bindweed, leafy spurge, and all 3 knapweeds, as well as other regulated weeds on county-owned land and some on private land this year. The weed inspectors performed their first inspections in May and June for the most part on lands that we've known to have weeds in the past. Inspection reports were emailed to the landowners with control options. Many of the landowners asked us to control their weeds at the estimated fee that we provided them, while others decided to do their own, and others just ignored us and had no intentions of controlling their known weeds. Second inspections were done in July and August, and it was found that there was some decent control in spots and others was very sporadic. We had to go back and do a few touch-ups on a few locations for those people that we charged for control. We've got a good working relationship with Alberta Transportation in Boker-Steven. We do their roads on a 3-year rotation like our Canada Thistle program. They approved weed control early in the spring, so that was great. We've gone over the approved budget and there was no problem with it when it was brought to their attention. They just said to continue on and finish kind of what we had intended to spray this year. So that is now finished. With CPR, we attempted to contact them June 1st, and there was finally a productive conversation on July the 11th. They decided they would send a contractor to perform weed control in their rights-of-way throughout Cypress County. The contractor was here August 8th to 12th to do the spraying. They were very busy and have several crews out across Canada and down to Mexico. So they're limited on equipment and resources. RTVs would have been ideal, but this guy had a 2-ton truck and a backpack sprayer with, to do all this stuff. But access with a truck is hard in some spots. So, but it was a good first attempt. I thought he was confident that he could get about 75% of that main track done. So. We had complaints about baby's breath, leafy spurge, and a few other weeds on CPR property that were encroaching and growing onto private land. So we were happy that we actually made contact and they put in an effort this year. So hopefully next year will be easier to get in touch with them. Roadside spraying went well for us. We were in the Jenner Bow Island, Red Cliff, Seven Persons, and Black and White Trail areas, spraying mainly for Canada Thistle, but also sow thistles, field bindweed, and other troublesome weeds. There was an abundance of kochia on many roads this year, so we sprayed a lot of that. We had to order extra herbicide in August to ensure that we sprayed all the roads in those areas. And about 1/3 of the county ditches are sprayed each year in that program. The summer was challenging, implementing the new service fee and having to invoice landowners for control, waiting for the landowners to get back to us on how they would like to proceed. And the new tablets and new weed inspection software, they needed tweaking and, learning how to use and some of that stuff. Because there was so much waiting for responses from people, it seemed like we were never able to finish control on one type of weed before we could move on to the next. So just felt like there was lots of jumping back and forth between weeds and herbicides and stuff. The spring was rainy and windy, so it was, hard to get into the weed control. So with spraying anyway. So there was picking of certain weeds and mowing and whipping and that sort of stuff in other areas. But so yeah, the summer was hot and had lots to catch up on, so we scrambled to get things done before everybody was taken off back to school. So we've got a truck with a spray skid on it, and there was 2 pumps on there. It's set up for 2 different herbicides, so those pumps have given us trouble for a couple years, and again this year too. So we typically had Roundup in that truck, and we just had a hard time getting it to work. So eventually we got the Roundup in a different unit and continued spraying with that. And now with that current spray skid, we've ordered new pumps and stuff. So Braden is working on that to get it up and running again. Training. So on June 29th, the Ag supervisor attended a presentation at the college by Mike Mullane. He's a retired astronaut who spoke about teamwork and leadership. He emphasized that everyone needs to work together collaboratively to have a great team and have each other's back, because their health and safety is priority. Miscommunication and one bad decision can affect the lives of others, as it did in the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster in 1986. That was really quite interesting. There was a South Region AAAF meeting on September 20th in Lethbridge. The South will be hosting IST in 2023 and the Ag Service Board Conference in 2024. So discussions and preparations are underway for those. And the Ag Supervisor will be attending a leadership workshop in Lacombe this week. The South Region ASB Conference is going to be hosted by the municipality of the Crow's Nest Pass and held at the Crow's Nest Pass Golf Course on October 25th. I just received the agenda package this morning and I emailed it out to you, so we can kind of maybe discuss that a bit later to see who can or wants to go and if we need rooms for the night before. In-service training for the Ag Fieldmen will be on December 5th to the 8th in Grand Prairie. So we're going to look into flights and see if it's worth flying or driving type thing for that. Also, the ASB conference will be January 2023 in Grand Prairie too. So just kind of a heads up for whoever can go to that. And again, flights or driving type thing. So biocontrol. So leafy spurge beetles were released on 15 sites along the South Saskatchewan River on June 24th and 28th. Scentless chamomile weevils were released on 5 sites in June. These agents disperse very quickly from the release site, and data shows that they will move up to 3 kilometers each year. This is the first year that we've had those, so it'll be interesting to see where they are next year, kind of thing. Seed head weevils were released on 1 site of diffuse knapweed on August the 10th. There wasn't enough diffuse or spotted knapweed along bed and shore to take advantage of the new program through Alberta Environment and Parks as we had kind of hoped. Summer staff. So we had 9 this year and 5 were finished by August 31st and 4 were able to stay a little bit later to help with some work that needed to be finished up. And the last one is likely going to be done on Friday here. CFB Suffield. So I reached out to the base and was informed that due to personnel shortages, their program focused the majority of their efforts to other areas of the base, so no spraying along Scotts Road or Township 150 at the south end there, or on Highway 884 had occurred this year. They did some removal of a patch of Russian knapweed just north of Gate 23 along their south boundary road in the summer of 2021. So that is now on industry's weed control plan, and they will be responsible for control or eradication of that. They are in the process of contracting a weed survey on the base in 2023, and the aim is to update their weed information to adjust their control plan, ensure their efforts and resources are allocated to the right areas of concern. When it is completed, they are willing to discuss it with us, and hopefully we can all work together to exchange information and do some control if necessary on our border. And they're willing that if there's areas of concern that we can bring it forward to them, and they will try and resolve it as quickly as possible. Alice, so we tried making contact with Alice and other people who are involved in Alice a couple times over the summer and didn't really get anywhere with it. So I also emailed somebody new in Alice yesterday and had a reply from them, and I just asked if somebody would be willing to do a presentation over Zoom or something like that to the Ag Service Board, and she said yeah, for sure, they were happy to do that when we can arrange a meeting that will work for them too. So pest surveys, so there were 10 wheat fields surveyed, and those samples were sent to Alberta Agriculture for Fusarium graminearum analysis. 2 canola fields were inspected for club root, and also samples sent to Alberta Ag for black leg and sclerotinia testing. And grasshopper surveys were completed at the beginning of August, and the data was sent to Alberta Ag. We had a few calls from acreage owners about grasshoppers overtaking their yards and wondering what they could do, but that was about the extent of that. A rat report, so there was one resident who called about a dead rodent they found in their swimming pool, just on an acreage outside of town here, and just through photos we could identify it as a pocket gopher, so thankfully. Badgers, we've had a few calls about badgers over the summer. There are no policies here that we will deal with badgers. There was a complaint from a resident in a hamlet about neighbors pruning elm trees during the elm tree pruning ban this summer. So that ban is in effect from April 1st to September 30th. And I went out to confirm that the trees were actually elm, and they were. So I spoke to the landowner, I guess, that was trimming these trees. They rent out their property, but they do trim them when they feel it's necessary. But they really can't do that during the pruning ban. So he was, willing to listen to what I had to say, and said he wouldn't do that again. So it went well. There was one environmental farm plan completed and approved in September, and there's been one more request, so that is good. That'll be underway. And the weed survey, so Alberta Forestry, Agriculture, Forestry, and Rural Economic Development is currently reviewing the list of 75 weeds that is on the weed control regulation. So the review began in April 2021, and it identified potential classification changes. So AFRED, along with members of the AAAF and Alberta Environment and Parks, has developed a list of about 24 weeds that could potentially be updated. So they're seeking information from the AAAF and other industry members as well, for our information and just input to what is problematic in our areas, and if we feel that some of those should be changed, like whether it's prohibited, noxious, or noxious type thing, or just to take it off the list altogether. So we'll do that. That has to be in the next week. Rental equipment, there's been 32 producers who have used the seed drills to seed 1,873 acres so far this year. The land rollers have been used by 10 producers to roll 890 acres. 6 producers use the 20-foot land roller, and 4 use the 15-foot. And then something I forgot to put in here is the budget. So we're reviewing and going over the budget to make any necessary changes for 2023, And, it's kind of expected that the budget will stay very similar to what it is this year, so. And I think that's about it. Questions? Sorry, it was kind of a long one.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Okay, just on the rental equipment, Lisa, maybe you and Braden could just comment if there was any feedback or negativity or any thoughts from the public on the delivery fees for the rental equipment, because I know that was an issue obviously for this board as well as for council when it comes to the master rates bylaw. So just any feedback that you could provide.
I had one person say they weren't going to rent it because of the cost, and one person said they weren't going to rent it because of the cost, and then they ended up renting it anyways. So other than that, we haven't had really any complaints. So I think we're all right there.
Okay, Josh.
Just going back to minutes from the last meeting, the chemical or the clean farm, we talked about the county looking into keeping those sites open in Schuler and Seven Persons or wherever the other one is, and the county transporting those to the retailers. Did we look into that at all to see if that's still possible instead of just having it at the retailers?
And we really didn't get anywhere with that yet, so, yeah, we can, I'll have to, I don't know if we talk to Public Works or something about using that area still, like if the one in Schuler is still there.
Yeah, if we can
We
keep
can
those
still
open
use
and
it, or, yeah.
county transport the jugs or whatever.
Yeah, thinking on that too, I think there has to be some stipulation if we do go ahead with that, like they have to be bagged in the bags for the retailers and stuff already.
Yeah.
So that, because I don't think county staff should have to pick up empty jugs and throw them in bags.
No, I agree. I think there should be some stipulations, but if we could look into that, if we can keep those open.
I
You know,
agree.
just for our farm alone, that would be multiple trips to town to take those jugs into a retailer, so.
Yeah.
Did we have a motion on that the last time?
Nah, it was just, I think, to look into
I
it.
think just, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, there was one. So, yeah, it's, Braden's got it up there.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so we'll continue to discuss that, I guess, figure out what.
Yeah, if we could find out what we can do with those. Especially the outlaying ones like Jenner, Schuler, Irvin, whatever. I think, or else we're gonna run into them ending up at the landfill.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that resolution kind of went a little sideways on them. Like it was Vulcan who had put that forward, and all they wanted was a few dollars to upkeep, some of their sites. And now all of a sudden they're closing them all, so.
That did go the wrong way for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because I agree, like in some of those areas, like what the heck, I do think they're gonna end up in the landfill, but,
Okay, yeah, if we could look into that.
yeah.
Shane?
I see we're spraying lots for the transportation on Volker's roads, Alberta transportation highways. Is that taken away from our guys spraying our roads and that? Are they getting too busy doing other stuff for other people? That's question number one.
I don't think so. Like, it seemed like we had time, we've got enough equipment and people to do these things. I know there was issues with some of the bare ground, like the transfer sites in the yards and stuff like that. Again, the equipment was just kind of down, giving us trouble this year, and we just didn't get back there. So, and this year with Alberta Transportation, there is more roads in this rotation than the other ones. So there was a lot more time spent there this year than other years.
Dealing with the base, then the base issue, because I know Pipeline Grazing got a notice from Cypress County about spraying on there, and all the members, we don't mind doing it if the base is doing it on their side of the fence.
Yeah.
Because, we're spending a lot of money doing our side, and they're not doing nothing on their side.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, did you guys, I asked, I don't know if we got invoiced, did they spray? Because when I talked to you,
Yeah, it's been sprayed, and
Okay.
there was or will be an invoice.
Okay.
I know we created the paperwork and stuff for it, so you should get one soon if you haven't,
Okay.
so.
I think that's it for now.
So I guess in regards to that, the question I have, if we're having trouble with equipment going down, would it make sense to set up a simple spray skid? That's just a tank with a pump and a wand sprayer that can be moved into a different vehicle and go out and, so they have something to use when stuff goes down? Because you could set something like that up for essentially nothing.
And that's what this is, basically, but except there's 2 tanks on it. But it was just the pumps that don't run, like they couldn't even get them started. So that's why we just ordered new pumps and stuff, and we're just gonna do it, because the tanks were full, they're full of Roundup, and then they get to Sandy Point, and then they can't get the pumps to start, and, just stuff like that. So now that it's new pumps and motors and everything on there, it should be good. And really, that's been the only equipment trouble I think that we've had this year, so it's been pretty smooth sailing.
Okay, yes, on those, Shane?
Yeah, one more question before we move on to Blaine's. With the rental equipment, the acres, up or down from last year so far?
Very similar. I think acres might be down, or acres might be up, but the ratepayers is down. It's very similar to last year, so we haven't really lost any business. I would say they were really busy this year, so.
Blaine?
You touched on the breakdowns. Didn't sound like there was much that was questioned. See how the equipment stood up this year, but it sounded like that was okay. I guess the only other one is just more of an informational thing. So the ban on the elm trees, is there, because that hurts the tree, or what's the deal with that?
No, it doesn't hurt the tree. If you cut an elm tree while it's actively growing, there's an odor which will attract the bugs, the elm bark beetle. So those are pests under the act, as well as the Dutch elm disease that they can carry and bring in. And then, if that tree is cut and there is a bug that lands on there that is carrying the disease, it will kill the tree, like in 2 years kind of thing. So they have just put a ban on province-wide kind of thing, and just helping to minimize the risk. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Lisa? No? Is there a seed plant report, Shane?
I haven't been to a seed planting meeting, and I don't know if they've been having them, or we got banned from them, because I haven't been to one for a long time.
I'm wondering if they're not phoning you. Is there, the Cypress County sits on their board because of what reason? Just courtesy, or is it because of the weed inspection stuff, or what is it?
Yeah, it's more than just courtesy. There's
Yeah, it's written into their bylaws that there's a representative from the county sitting on there, and that's right from its inception back in the 60s. And I think it's because the county paid for a third of the seed plant in the first place.
So my guess is the chairman soured off because of the funding loss and now is not contacting you. Because there's no way they haven't had a meeting. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
I haven't had an email or a phone call or
Maybe
nothing
you
about
should be
one.
contacting the chairman.
Well, I was gonna say, like, we're a member too, and I mean, I haven't had a letter saying they were, usually you got a letter saying they were having a meeting and stuff, and I haven't had a letter in 2 years probably.
Quite often they just put it in the paper, but
Well, that's just for the
general.
general meeting is where you see that, and that's usually in January when they have that. But would it be advantageous for someone to reach out to Gary and see what's going on?
Sure.
I think so.
Quite a few meetings where I've had no report because I haven't been to one.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, somebody want to move the reports? Connie, thanks. All in favor? Carried. Okay, bait applicator, Lisa?
Okay, so this one. So we were asked to look into the verminator or other equipment to assist farmers in controlling Richardson ground squirrels or gophers. Rosal is the product that is most available now for controlling of gophers, but the label does not permit the use of equipment for the baiting of Richardson ground squirrels. So we're kind of on the fence, you know, about having equipment here that would, you know, be going against the label. And I kind of highlighted it in that label as well. Like, it's allowed for pocket gophers, but not Richardson ground squirrels. So that's kind of where we just stopped looking.
I guess we're going after pocket gophers.
Yeah.
But how do you advertise that? We can't, oh, here, come kill all your pocket gophers.
You advertise it as gophers.
They won't end up in the swimming pool then.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you guys want to do with this? Use your mic, Connie.
That's a good idea.
I guess we could write a letter to PMRA and ask them to consider putting Richardson's ground squirrels on with for the using equipment. I don't know, that's about all we can do. Maybe that should be the resolution. Because this one will fall.
There's a lot of talk, but no clear direction, so what would you like out of that?
I think we write a resolution. That has to be done today, doesn't it?
I have to be in today.
Will they give you an extra day?
I don't know.
I think coming from the provincial ASB board will have a little bit more merit than it would from our county. So I think that probably would be the correct way to do it, if that's what we're after.
To do a resolution? Yeah.
And like with these, sorry, with the equipment, is it like just a one plow, like a one track kind of thing? So how would, I mean, that's a lot of plowing if somebody is gonna use it. I just,
The idea of it is to go like, you gotta go 30 to 50 feet apart, so it's like you're not going,
okay.
so there is a lot of plowing, but it's not like you're going every 6 inches having to go, so you're kind of going, so you could do
And then
whatever,
it's only like.
40 acres in however many passes you desire, really.
Yeah, yeah.
In the worst areas even, like you probably don't even have to go the whole field. I mean, gophers seem to hang out in certain areas, so if you did a few passes in certain areas, it would probably work. But it sounds like we need to get the bait registered to be used with the equipment before we worry about getting the equipment then.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that would go to PMRA then, right? Do they do the label?
Well, wouldn't Rosal have to, I don't know how that works, like the labels, like do they kind of create their own label and then it's approved? Kind of thing?
Well, just
Well,
kind of
probably both of them.
Yeah, like, cause they would have to have something to send to PMRA to have,
Yeah.
you know, approved or whatever, right?
back to Dustin's point, like, would you have to make this resolution on behalf of the, or send it to the Ag Service Board conference or whatever when they bring them up, and then they forward it off to the company of Rosal or whatever and get them to acknowledge the fact that it's not used in applications and get them to change? Is that the process, or?
I think we don't know enough information on it, so we should try and get some context on it and maybe contact Rosal and ask that question if it's their job or if it's that they have to submit to PMRA if it's something PMRA decides. So at worst comes to worst, we can always put it in as an emergent after. Right? It's not the end of the world if we don't get it to the South Conference. Go ahead, Josh.
Is a resolution the right way to go about it, though? Like, you know how slow those are moving. Wouldn't a letter from Cypress County with support of other counties to Rosno be a better way to go than take it to the resolution, then ends up in the winter, and then it has to go up to the government, and the government's not gonna do, if they don't do anything about it, it's dead, where if we write a letter asking for the changes with support from other counties, or the AAAF support or whatever, I think that's a better way than writing a resolution and waiting 2 years for something to happen.
Well, and that's fair too, and that might be a good way to at least get the context of what we're looking for.
Because I don't know the resolutions, are they intended for product-specific stuff or more as an overview of policies and different things within governments?
I think it would make a lot of people aware of the fact if it was brought to a conference.
It would, I just think the time-wise will take way too long to get anything.
Well, I mean, you could do both too, right?
Yeah, you could.
So what do you guys want?
I would like to see a letter written with support from other counties.
So do we want to make contact to the company that makes Rosal first and ask the questions? And then from there, we can bring it back?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think that might be the best course. Then we at least know where we're trying to beat a stick at.
Because it might not be Rosal that said it wasn't allowed, it might have been PMR or whatever said, so then you know the direction to go if we write a letter to them or whoever.
I would love a motion for that.
I'll make the motion to contact Rosal and get some more information, bring it back to our next meeting, and then we can proceed.
Okay. All in favor of that? Carried. I think that pretty much is the one for this.
So I take back my motion, right?
You never made one.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Connie.
Okay, new business, the Egg for Life donation.
So Egg for Life sent a letter and just wondering if the ASB would be interested in making a donation to their programming. It's a better understanding of agriculture and farm safety training for those who see their presentations or visit them at trade show booths or however. In the past, the ASB has been sponsoring the Alberta Farm Safety Center for kids in rural schools. And in 2017, the ASB had decided to provide them with $2,000 a year, supporting one organization rather than multiple. So that was just kind of the thought in the past that, just supporting one in a larger capacity than multiple was their train of thought then. So, I mean, that can be changed, obviously, if, that's what you decide to do. And they're asking for $1,500 a year.
Go ahead, Connie.
I move we give Egg for Life $1,500 for their programs. A year.
Go ahead, Blaine.
I'll just make a comment with that. I was at the Urban Ag Discovery Program supper donation deal the other night, and I think these kind of programs are important moving forward, like with the training and getting young people involved for sure. So just a comment on that.
Is there budget money for this year?
Yeah, there would be room for that.
And Egg for Life has taken over the classroom agriculture program.
was gonna ask about that, if
Yeah.
that's, oh, okay,
Yeah, that makes sense to support that then.
yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
Their social media is incredible. Whoever's doing that job now is doing
Oh,
a really good job.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, all in favor? Carried. Okay, policy review, green bag rolling.
So as part of the county's annual insurance review, the risk advisor selects a number of policies and provides recommendations for improvement. This year, the green bag rolling and recycling policy was noted and the following was suggested. There does need to be a training and safety protocol where the person is showed how to use and what precautions need to take place. They will sign that they have completed this. This is per recent court ruling where a judge has indicated that in order for the municipality to reduce risk, the documentation both within the policy and in practice is now required. So staff has reviewed and updated policy ASB 2 green bag rolling and recycling and the green bag rental agreement to include statements about training and safety. The agreement will be signed by the producer renting the green bag roller and the documents will be saved in ag files. So the changes have been made in red here, and if that looks okay to you, then we can submit that to council for ratification.
Looks pretty straightforward CYA kind of stuff. Any comments?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. If there's no questions or comments, Shane's gonna move. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Reg 1 resolution, Connie.
So I experienced spray drift from an aerial applicator in my garden. It basically wiped out everything that wasn't underground. So the only thing I have left is potatoes and beets. So, and I've spoken to some other farmers who do not apply Reglone by aerial application for that reason. But this one farmer decided to spray it on his soybeans. Well, hired a plane, and it did wipe out my garden. And then looking more into this, and probably the resolution should say remove aerial application from dicot products. So what I've said here is it's non-selective and is activated by sunlight. It damages non-target crops and trees, affecting a tree's ability to reduce carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It affects non-target vegetables and fruits and vegetables, so they cannot be consumed or sold, resulting in food waste. It can be applied safely by ground application, so there is other ways of applying it. And then I guess we can take out the other whereas. So it's not effective as a weed control agent. It's basically just a desiccant. And then right off the label it says, whereas any drift of this product outside the immediate field area may result in damage to crop shelter belts, ornamental plants, lawns, grazing areas, and so on and so forth. So I would like to ask PMRA to remove aerial application from dicot herbicide labels.
Go ahead, Josh.
Personally, this is more of an applicator problem than a label problem. I think you have to go back to the applicator and the farmer and talk to them, because being applied by ground, you could have the same problem. So I wouldn't be in support of it for those reasons, that it's not a label issue, it's an applicator issue. And if you're a spray plane operator, you're a custom applicator, you know, that's my fear. What if you do this for this one, and then all of a sudden we have another herbicide or something else that somebody gets some drift and it keeps coming, and where does it end? So my opinion is it's an applicator issue, not a label issue.
I think it's really hard to find ideal conditions for aerial application of this.
Well, recently it's been hard to find ideal conditions for any herbicide.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, then that's where I go back to the applicator. The applicator should know when the ideal conditions are, and you're right about inversion and all that other stuff, but if you're a professional applicator, this goes back to them. And did you talk to the applicator?
Yeah, yeah.
And did you file a,
I phoned Alberta Environment. Alberta Environment said, well, there's nothing we can do. And I says, well, can I take a sample and send it away to a lab to confirm what it is? And they said, well, there isn't any labs. It has to go to Quebec. So therein is another problem. And yeah, I mean, he was very quick to settle, which makes me wonder how many other gardens are they spraying out. And it says, well, let's just throw money at it and it'll go away. And so I was talking with some other people too, and yeah, their gardens are gone too.
I mean, we've had issues on our own farm where we have oversprayed or had somebody overspray, and it's the same thing. And then you just settle, you figure it out and settle it. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I just don't think it's a label thing. I think it's an applicator issue.
Yeah, I think it would be less likely to happen because, I mean, especially with the trees and just everything, like within, a mile radius, like in the direction that the wind was.
How far did it drift?
Half a mile.
Yeah, so.
That's some pretty bad conditions they sprayed in, if that was the case.
Yep. Something wasn't right. Tips or pressures or something wasn't right to drift that far. Unfortunately, yeah.
Any other comments?
I was just gonna back up Josh's comment. I mean, same thing. We've had issues too that there's been overspray, and where do you, like you said, where do you stop?
Well, for me, it was more the fact that this is non-selective, so that it gets everything. I mean, we can't spray glyphosate because it's non-selective by aerial, and so I kind of put this in with the glyphosate, and they're actually both group 22, right? Dicot and glyphosate are both group,
Glyphosate's group 9.
oh, group 9, okay. Yeah, just the fact that it's non-selective. So I think it should be treated like glyphosate is treated, that there's no aerial application of it.
I know there is only, Dicot is the only herbicide that can be sprayed by plane for any kind of desiccation. There's no other product that's registered for it. And the reason where it needs to be sprayed by plane sometimes is one, crop damage, and two, conditions, because sometimes you can't actually get into a field to spray it.
Well, if a field is too wet to spray by truck, it's gonna, you're gonna spray the desiccant on it, and then 4 days later, you're supposed to harvest it. Well, the field's still gonna be wet because there's no plants uptaking any water, so it's still gonna be wet, too wet to harvest.
Well, I'll use flax as an example because there's a 14-day turnaround on it on flax. And a lot of the time we can't get in to spray it with a sprayer, mostly because we're too heavy, but we can combine it. And it's a lot easier to pull out a combine than it is to pull out a sprayer. And that's just sometimes how the years go for us, because been there, done that, learned that lesson.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Shane.
Connie, I had to agree with Josh as the applicator. I mean, I got burnt, I wrecked the whole guy's yard, his trees, his lawn, and everything by spraying calcium chloride on a gravel road, and a thunderstorm come over the hill, and it washed down his driveway and into his yard. And I had to redo his whole yard. It was my fault, but we're not banning the use of calcium chloride.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just, it's the applicator was wrong and at fault. I feel it wasn't the chemical or not. So, I mean, it's, sorry for your loss, but I mean, it's just, it's the applicator.
Anything else?
Yeah, I think it was unfortunate that it happened, but I think you have to go back to the applicator. Because back in the chem fellow days, we used to have a lot of problems with Roundup drift. And, you know, it would wipe out 20, 30 acres sometimes, depending, right? Or enough that it would fry your flag leaf on something and set that back. It's all goes back to applicator.
You retire the applicator, that's what I did.
You retired the applicator. There you go. So, okay, so Connie had moved to forward this resolution to the South Region Committee. All in favor? Yeah, that motion is defeated.
Okay.
Oh, I missed 7.3. Connie, Eco-Brand applicator.
So I had a couple calls from people who had some real grasshopper issues, basically defoliated their yards. Maybe it was Reglone, I don't know. So I know when I was in Brazeau County, the year before I got there, the grasshoppers were horrendous, and what they did, they had brand bait applicators that you could rent. And so in Brazeau, so it spreads the Eco brand 15 to 18 feet. So you put it on a ATV power. It runs on a 12-volt fan motor that plugs into an ATV power outlet. And so it carries 30 pounds of Eco brand, and they're renting it for $15 a day with a $100 damage deposit. So I just printed it off here. After I got there, there wasn't any issues with grasshoppers, but I don't think this piece of equipment is that expensive, and it might be a good thing to have around. You don't have this. It's off the county's website. So then Eco brand is just wheat germ with this insecticide in it, and you just spray it all, and they eat it and die. So it was just something that came up because I had two people talk to me about it.
Go ahead, Josh.
I can get behind Connie on this one. I think it's something that we need. I mean, in our area, the grasshoppers absolutely are. Caraganas are on everything. So if we had an option, because first off, I don't like spraying insecticides if I don't have to. So if we can use something like this that's a little more selective and a little easier on the human, and if it's something that the county can rent out and some revenue, and then all of a sudden if we don't need it, you know, maybe we can get rid of it. And because grasshoppers come in cycles too, right? So this may be a 2 or 3 year thing, but I think it would get used. The amount of devastation they did this year was unbelievable.
Yeah. It looks like a garbage bin.
I'd like to see that.
Like I said, they didn't use it the whole time I was there, but I mean, like sometimes they're just cycling, right?
Yeah, we're into a
We
cycle.
might have it for 10 years before it gets used. Oops.
So I guess if it's something we're thinking about, the correct motion would be for staff to research the costs of one of those applicators?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shannon used that stuff too. We got a pretty big yard, and that would be kind of nice if she'd have had a thing. She had to go around with the cup and spread it around, and there was dead grasshoppers laying all over the place on the road and whatnot after she did it. Worked good. I got a bag. I think I got it at Co-op actually. Yeah.
So I make a motion that staff investigate purchasing a Eco brand applicator, brand bait applicator.
Go ahead, Shane.
When you read this other one, you know, you can use a Velmar. There's other different types of applicators too, and they're just saying like a common fertilizer spreader. They call it a disc spreader that you could use. So I'd like to see that maybe it'd be a double use, that, you know, to make sure that maybe we could spread grass seed with it too.
That'd be a good idea, actually.
You know, that you can do both applications then, because in places, you know, you don't want to rent a Velmar, but you just want something decent to spread, you know, even on the 3-point hitch one on the back of your tractor, that you could,
Because essentially all it is a granular applicator.
yeah. So instead of like an ATV one, I mean, everybody has a little tractor with a 3-point hitch, you could just, no, you don't.
I think if you're looking at something like this, you should probably keep it that anybody can use it.
Yeah.
So being able to pull it with a ATV would be,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's got a lawn tractor, an ATV or whatever where it would be.
But it's dual use.
But I like that idea because with some of these, you know, riparian areas, seeding and all this different stuff, it may get used more for that kind of stuff. It's not a bad idea.
Essentially, an air-propelled applicator is all it is, except just small. Not.
Yeah, look into some different,
Yeah, and like acreage owners would be, you know, potentially wanting to use this as well, right? So they might not have a tractor or whatever, so it would have to be.
Or aerial.
I'm gonna huck something.
I like the idea of that, actually.
is it registered for aerial
Thinking this
application?
coffee cup.
I sit and I think about it, and I can think the uses I would have for something like that if there was one available for rent, so.
There would be, you know, just,
The kids just put up a house, they got a place where they gotta seed grass, it'd be perfect for them.
I was just thinking for reseeding canola, it'd work fantastic too.
Well, and I was just thinking like a fertilizer spreader, right? Like just when you push, but like I don't know what.
no, I think behind the ATV, like, it'd get more use.
Or something where, if it's got like that air propulsion, like what Connie was talking about, that's, it gives you about a 15-foot fan then, instead of, what you get out of a fertilizer spreader, which is, I don't know, I leave strips in my lawn all the time whenever I use one, so.
Well, and this product's pretty light, so you wouldn't get a lot of throw out of a spreader, I don't think either.
No.
With any kind of breeze, so. And I like this product too a lot better for the safety of it all because we don't want to be spraying grasshoppers around the yard with DCs and stuff like that.
Okay, so Connie's got a motion to, research an applicator, a granular applicator.
Yes, for to add to the rental fleet.
All in favor of that? Carried. I see I missed your Alice thing, Blaine.
Oh, that's all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I brought this forward a couple meetings ago to have staff look into this program, and I've also had some ratepayers contact me wondering where we're at with it. And looks like if you look through the information that they've already got, there's some pretty good programs that might benefit, you know, producers in our area. So I guess I'd just like to say that the staff continue to look into maybe getting like a conference or whatever you called it with them. That'd be great. And maybe find out too if there's a cost to us as a county to be involved in the program or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, like if they could do a presentation, then hopefully all that information will be in there and at least we can all ask questions, right? Because it's quite involved, like you've got to have a certain board for it and stuff and, you know, certain people have to be on it and I think members at large or whatever they call them and that sort of thing too. So and as far as I know, there's a waiting list to be accepted or whatever into that as well. So yeah, we
On the
just
program.
need to have, somebody from that organization that can speak to all of that so we get the information that we need.
Need a motion or anything? Or?
I think you had a motion
I think we had
from
one.
a previous one, so, and if they're still researching it, I guess that's,
Yeah.
we just continue on with that and they can bring
Continue
it back when we have the information for it.
Perfect.
Okay, anything more on that? No? South Region Conference?
So the South Region Conference is, I just had the agenda package, I emailed it to you this morning, so that's gonna be, in the Crow's Nest Pass on October 25th. They've got a couple hotels in in Pinger Creek and a couple in Blairmore. Just kind of set aside rooms for people that may want them. So if everybody's wanting to go to that, and if you want rooms, kind of just let me know or whatever, and I can get them booked or get us registered and that sort of stuff too, so,
I can't go, we're weaning that day.
okay.
Anybody else planning on attending?
I do if I'm still on the board.
Yeah, I'll go if I'm still on the board.
I'd like to go too if it works out, but same thing with weaning, I'm not quite sure.
I'm weaning on the 27th, so.
Okay, so I'll kind of tentatively have 4 of you then.
When's the provincial conference? What's the
Provincial
dates?
is January 17th-ish,
Oh, okay.
like that.
In Grand Prairie.
Is that out in the middle of nowhere again where they had it the last time?
I don't know, we don't have an agenda or anything, so I'm guessing it probably is.
I was really excited when I found that there was a casino out there. 10 a.m. Bloody Marys.
We got to listen to Bruno talk about having, didn't you and I walk out?
I had enough, yeah.
So would you guys be planning to drive up that morning, or do you want hotel rooms?
Oh, I would want a room. I'm 8:30 and the registration's at 8:30. That's
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
No, no for,
Crow's Nest
Nest
Pass.
Crow's Nest. I'd go up the night before. That's a long drive and that early in the morning.
And Dustin, sometimes they've got that meeting for the chairman and the Fieldman the night before too, but I haven't heard about that, if they've decided they're doing that or not.
yeah, I would say just book rooms, so.
You can always cancel them, I guess, if something happens.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Bonnie will stay at Kainai.
Stay where?
Out at Kainai.
Oh, boy.
Okay, got that. Is there anything in the items for information that we have to go over?
That vet support letter, you guys think we should write one too?
There was a few, I think.
I really think so.
Dealing with the shortage of vets.
Does seem to be a
One that we can
problem.
Look at, I don't have it in front of me.
Right here. Just
That's
basically,
weed control, Cypress County.
basically just, I read it last night, but it's basically just saying that, support a change in the qualifications to getting into the program, basically.
I think they're higher for vets than they are for medical doctors, for people doctors.
I'm not opposed to writing the letter if it's something you guys want to do.
I'll make that motion that Dustin writes a nice big long 8-page letter.
Copy
Stating-
and paste this one.
I'll do too.
Pretty much.
Okay, any other comments on that? All in favor? Carried. Anything else?
Just the resolution report card from 2022. But yeah, no, that's about it. Couple thank you letters from people who have, from the Forbes family and that sort of thing, and yeah.
Go ahead, Shane.
I really like that picture of the 4-H, of them all together as a group photo and saying thank you. That's quite nice. That was a good thought.
I can imagine.
I like that picture.
Yeah. I have a question as far as, are we gonna do a webinar series again this winter, and should we start planning and look into that again, or?
Yeah, we can look into something. Do you have an idea?
I don't have any ideas, I just thought we
Okay.
should maybe talk about it and see if there's
Hoping
something.
you had
Well, I was hoping what Blaine was talking about with this stuff, you could do it, but it seems like we have to be approved for this area first before we send it out to the general public, but I don't know, is there any, I think the webinar things, until we're getting not great response, I think it's something that people look for.
What about a farm safety one? Farm safety seminar.
My Shane, you've grown
Not a bad
your
idea.
hair.
I know. Spoke out a term. No, I think we should look at, different webinars too, if we could, especially proper aerial spraying and. But no, there's lots of,
There can be some,
erosion.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
becoming such a big thing, this soil erosion, and
yeah.
Oh my God, don't even get me started.
I knew it would, that's why I brought it up, but no, it is.
Or grasshopper control, pest
Grasshopper
control.
control, I mean,
Maybe there's some different things that we can do along those lines to deal with these conditions that we're in right now. Not saying that next year's gonna be better or worse, but
Ken Fry does really good seminar, like talks. Yeah, he's out of Old College. Ken Fry, yeah, insect issues or something.
what about, did we do an environmental farm plan one?
We done-
So what if we did something like an overview of environmental farm plan as far as what it entails to get started, what it entails to complete? Maybe we'll get more completions or more applications.
I'll raise my hand.
Go ahead, Connie.
So I think like a gardening seminar as well. I think would be very popular, or fruit production.
Should we do that before or after the aerial application one?
Oh, you guys. Oh, I know.
Crowd, eh, Connie?
And I knew it. I was kind of looking forward to bringing this resolution to Southern Region Conference and having Tabor, Newell, and Lethbridge all tear a strip off me for even suggesting it. But, yeah.
We saved you the strip.
Like companion planting would be another good one. I think gardening would be very popular.
There's also some funding available now, for some of this cover crop and different things. So it may be an overview of that funding. I forget what it's called. It's through the federal government.
shelter melt, oh, we did that.
Well, I think like this Alice program, if we can get in, like, there's a lot of that in there. Once we can get this maybe going, we can get something with that, but. Just need more information from them, I guess.
Go ahead, Josh.
Another question, sorry. The ditch weed spraying was way better in our area this year. But going back to that, did we ever get anywhere with municipal works as far as weed ID and with the grader operators, or was that just a dead horse that went away? Yeah. Because we had talked about one time using GPS to mark some of these invasive weeds, but the roadside spraying was way better this year.
Yeah, in front of my house
They
they
did a way
did.
better job.
Really, yeah. Smoked the thistle. Oh, wow, look at that thistle, it's gone. That's why aerial application doesn't work very good, because they're going that fast. Or works too well or something.
Maybe we should look at aerial spraying the ditches.
Oh, Dustin, I'm good. I need 2 coffee mugs to throw at you guys. One for each of.
We tried something by my place too with showy milkweed, because it's actually beginning to be a little bit of a overcoming weed. Although I know everybody loves it for the monarch butterflies, there's getting to be an awful lot of it that's spreading, and it's a slow spreading thing, but we got to start keeping a little bit of tabs on it. So they sprayed it and then they mowed it 2 days later. So I guess we'll see. Well, we'll see next year if there was if it did anything to it or not. So. Yeah. Well, and we'll know if there's any residual on it too, because there's quite a bit. And the worst part about it is that it's in the county ditches and it spreads into the fields, and it may only spread a foot a year, but there's really nothing that controls it. So. So, but I think that might be something we have to start looking at in the coming years, that we have to start dealing with that stuff a bit before it gets completely out of hand.
I think there is one herbicide, because when I was in the county of Newell, we were spraying milkweed. And yeah, it's like, it's not a pleasant, because milkweed's got that waxy coating on. So yeah, it's not a pleasant chemical at all. Hmm.
I know Roundup doesn't touch it. Okay, is there anything else to come before the meeting? No? Then I adjourn at whatever time it is, because I can't see the clock. 1:45.
It's right in front of you under exit.
I know, it's got a glare and I can't see what it says.